everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorky, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single Wednesday on this channel where we just geek out about comic books, and today is a very important episode, because today is the episode that you guys have been asking me about. It's the one you've been wondering when it's gonna finally come out. That's right, today's the day in which I complain about Civil War II issue number 2. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That's next week. I'm just kidding. There's no way I'm talking about that issue. No, never. No, we're going to talk about something positive on this show. We're going to talk about all the DC Rebirth books. Yes, I promised you guys that I would make videos talking about all the books that came out in DC Rebirth, and this is the first of those videos. Now, for any of you out there who were not around the last time that I talked about a giant company-wide relaunch of a major comic book company, which is not a sentence I thought I would have to say that often. But, for any of you who were not around the last time that I did a video like this, what I like to do is I like to wait until a month is over with. Then I make a video talking about all the books that came out in that month. So, this is the video in which I will be talking about all the books that came out in June. I'm going to do one for July, August. If they continue it after August, then etc, etc. However, it was recently brought to my attention that my videos can be kind of long. Actually, it wasn't recently brought to my attention. You guys have been telling me that for a long time now. But I decided it's finally time that I listen. So, we're not going to talk about all the June books in this video. I'm going to divide June into 2 videos. But don't worry, I'm going to have the second part coming out later this day. It might be at like midnight, but it will be later this same day. Yes, you heard right, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to have to wait. You're going to get all your DC Rebirth videos in the same day. But in this video, part 1, I'm going to be talking about the Trinity. I'm going to be talking about Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Action Comics, and Detective Comics. And then in part 2 later today, I'm going to talk about Flash, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Green Lanterns, and Titans. Now before I begin, I just want to make one thing clear, which is that I'm going to come in here and give you my honest thoughts on these books. And that means that I will have some things to critique, but just because I'm critiquing these books doesn't mean that I dislike them. In fact, I'll be totally honest with you, so far, there's only been like one book out of this relaunch that made me go, ew, yeah, I don't know about that. But then when the second part of that series came out, I went, oh, okay, well, yeah, alright. I can see how this works. So far, even though I might have things that I do want to critique about these books, I've been very positive on them. My opinion of this relaunch so far has been thumbs up all the way. I've been enjoying each of these books on some level or another. So I just want to make that clear, because even though I might come in here and just critique several things about a book, I'm still very positive about that book. So far, I have yet to have a single book that made me go, yeah, no, skip this one. But okay, let's go ahead and begin by talking about the Rebirth books themselves. I've got 3 to talk about in this video: Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And the point of the Rebirth one-shots have been kind of to introduce us to these characters again, to make us go, okay, they haven't been themselves over the past couple of years. This is our time to come in and reestablish them. And it's also our time to give every single new reader out there everything that they need to know in order to start reading these books. And I think they've mostly been successful, although I'll be totally honest with you, the ones that I'm going to talk about in the second video coming out today, I'm going to have a lot more to say about. With Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, their Rebirth one-shots, I was mostly just kind of like, okay, sure. Like, let's start with Batman. Every single one of these books, the point of them was to come in and go, this is who this character is, this is the direction we're taking them, we're going to fix all the problems that we had with the previous character. However, their Batman books have been the thing that people have been loving the most about the New 52. It was the thing that people were praising the most about the New 52. So the Batman Rebirth book didn't really have a job. It didn't really need to establish that much, because people have already been reading Batman like crazy, and they like that Batman, so it was kind of them just coming in and going, yeah, here's an adventure with Batman. In fact, in all honesty, out of all the Rebirth one-shots, I'd say the Batman one is the most throwaway one, the one that you don't have to read the most. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's the worst. It's definitely not. It is definitely not the worst of the Rebirth one-shot so far. It's just the one that was like, do you know who Batman is? Of course you do. Then you're good. The only thing that the Batman Rebirth book actually established is that Duke Thomas came and started working for Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne took him in and said, yeah, listen, I'm Batman, here's the Batcave, here's all this, and Duke's like, yeah, I kind of already figured all this stuff out on my own. I'm not going to be Robin, by the way. I was already Robin with all my Robin friends over there. I did that. I'm not doing it anymore. And the thing that really surprised me is that Batman came in and just flat went, yeah, I know you're not going to be Robin. I got something new for you. And he gives him this brand new suit. But here's something that kind of bugged me about that. We didn't get a name for him. I mean, maybe they said what was going to be online, but yeah, I read through that book and I was like, they didn't really give him a name in this. In fact, Bruce just keeps calling him Mr. Thomas. So yeah, I really wish, that's one of my biggest complaints about this one issue is just, yeah, it's cool that you gave him the suit and all that, and you're giving him like an actual job, and he's not just going to be Robin, he's already graduating to the next level, but yeah, I kind of wish you had given him a name. It would have made him stick in my mind a little bit easier. Next up, the Superman Rebirth issue. Now, as I said, the entire point of these Rebirth one-shots is to address new readers and say, hey, in case you don't know what's been happening, here's what's been happening, here's these characters, and here's what's going to happen with these characters. Here's the changes that are going to happen. And I feel like for a new reader, this Superman Rebirth issue probably did that job the best, because for a new reader, the Superman series are the ones you're going to need the most help catching up on, because a lot of people are going to think, it's Superman, I know Superman, I don't need any catching up. You don't know this Superman. Because here's what's been going on in the New 52. The Superman of the New 52, the current DC Comics universe, he died. He is gone. And it is a pretty definite death. And the Superman of the pre-New 52 universe, he, Lois, and their child have been trapped in the New 52 universe because their universe died and they're the only survivors of that universe. They're the only ones who remember that pre-New 52 universe, and they're like, listen, our days of being superheroes are over with. We're just gonna work on a farm. Sometimes Clark will go out, do a little Superman on the side when he has to, but he's not gonna be Superman anymore because this guy's Superman. And then this guy dies. So this Rebirth issue was the pre-New 52 Superman coming in and saying, listen, I can probably bring this guy back to life because I died and I got brought back to life, and my Fortress of Solitude has a way of doing that. So we will just go to his Fortress of Solitude and bring him back to life. So it's him and Lana Lang going to this Fortress of Solitude, and the entire time it's that Superman telling Lana his story about how he died and how he came back to life, and it's Lana talking to him about her Superman. So that's why I say this one probably did the best job, because it established who the New 52 Superman was. The Superman that everybody knows. It established that he died, and it established who the pre-New 52 Superman was for anybody who wasn't familiar with him. And it basically gave us the reason why that pre-New 52 Superman was going to have to become Superman again. How many times did I just say Superman in that one sentence? Wow, that was a lot. So as I said, I think this one did the best job for new readers. However, if you already know who the pre-New 52 Superman is, and you already knew what was going on with the New 52 Superman, this issue I feel like really wasn't that important. I don't feel like it added that much. It gave you a reason for why this Superman would become Superman again. However, I think the regular issues themselves already did it. So if you are a new reader and you need to be introduced to this stuff, then sure, go ahead and get it. But I feel like if you already know all this stuff and you're like, well, I can't afford to get all these books, I'd say you can skip this one. Next up, the Wonder Woman Rebirth issue. This one's weird. In fact, I read this like 2 weeks ago, and in all honesty, I still don't know how I feel about it. Because, as we all know from that Rebirth issue, time has been manipulated, history has been changed, and now there are characters who are starting to remember things from that pre-New 52 universe. They're starting to remember that time has been changed, and in this issue, it's about Wonder Woman going, listen, I have memories of me being made from clay, and my mother raised me like that, but I also have memories of being the daughter of Zeus and that whole clay story being a lie. Which one's real? And I have memories of other adventures that I don't think I ever went on, and she's starting to realize time's been split apart. Like, Kid Flash does not have to come to her and tell her, hey, this is what happened. She's starting to figure it out on her own, which to me makes a lot of sense because she has the lasso of truth. And she was given the lasso of truth because she is a crusader for truth. She is a hero of truth. So if she is supposed to be this embodiment of truth, it would make sense that she's starting to realize truth is a lie. Something is wrong here. So she even like uses the lasso on herself and she goes, yeah, okay, things are not quite right here. And it shows us her going to Olympus and all of a sudden people are turning on her, and these like guardians are turning on her as if she were not an actual god, which in the New 52 she actually is. So she's starting to realize things don't make sense anymore. Like, reality is conflicting with itself. And that sounds like an amazing setup, and it is a great setup, and it made me really want to read the Wonder Woman issues that come after it. However, it's kind of a bland issue. I gotta say, I know many people loved it, but to me it was just kind of like, whatever. Like, the setup for it and what it leads into in the Wonder Woman series I thought was great. But this entire issue is monologue. And it's not just monologue like her talking, it's like her internal thoughts. There is almost no actual words being said, and maybe it's just my own personal preference, but I enjoy characters interacting. I think that characters interacting is actually one of the best ways to propel a story further. So as I was reading this, I was kind of like, this is kind of just Wonder Woman telling us what's going on. It felt more, rather than me actually experiencing an adventure and a revelation and her going through her journey, it felt kind of more like just reading a description of what the series was going to be, like what the pitch for the upcoming series would be. But I still kind of dug the tone of it. So I'll be totally honest with you, out of all the Rebirth one-shots that I've read so far, this is the one that I'm the most like, kind of on, because I do see the positives in there, and it did indeed make me want to read the Wonder Woman series that comes after it, which I will talk about in just a second. But as far as like a standalone, like single issue goes, I thought it was a little bit flat, in all honesty. So okay, as you can probably tell, so far I've been pretty on these Rebirth one-shots. However, the entire point of these one-shots was to set up the books that come afterwards. So they're the most important thing. If the one-shots are as long as the series itself is good, then it's still a success. And I gotta say, out of these 5 series, Action, Detective, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, I've been really impressed with each of them. So far, I think each of them are really strong books. I'm going to go ahead and start with what I think is probably the weakest of them, because I want to move up to what I think is the strongest. And so far, I think the weakest of them is Action Comics, and I'll say that's a little bit disappointing to me because it's being written by the same guy who was writing the Lois and Clark series, and I really enjoyed the Lois and Clark series, so I was like, this is a slam dunk. It's gonna be a perfect fit. And I was reading it, I was like, it's good, but the Lois and Clark series was a little bit better. However, I will say that the thing that I'm enjoying the most about is that the entire point of the Rebirth relaunch was to remind us of old DC, and remind us of the stuff that we really liked about old DC. And as I was reading Action Comics, I went, this does feel like those old Superman books that I used to read when I was a kid. This does remind me of that, which there's a good reason for that, is being written by the same guy who used to write them. But yeah, it definitely has that same tone, that same feel, that same feeling of Superman goes out there to stop Lex Luthor and Doomsday from doing stuff. And it does have that feeling of really big, crazy ideas. Because that was the thing that I always used to like about the Superman books that I read when I was a kid, is that yeah, really big, crazy stuff would happen in those books, and you're reading Action Comics, and Lex Luthor is now Superman of Metropolis. He's the one who went, well, you know, our Superman is dead. We need a new Superman. I'm just going to take his cape and declare myself the new Superman, because me and Superman, we were pals, everybody. You can't ask him if that was correct, because he's dead. So just take my word for it. Me and Superman, we were best pals, and he would totally want me to have this cape. And I love that the Clark Kent, the Superman of the pre-New 52 universe, for years has been living in hiding, because he was like, I can't risk going out there and exposing myself. It would be this big crisis for my family. I can't put them at risk. The moment in which he sees Lex Luthor with that cape on, he's just like, nope. I don't know why, but that just made me crack up, that he has been living on this planet for so many years, watching Darkseid invade, watching the crime syndicate take over and get rid of all the humans. He's been watching every single terrible thing happen throughout the history of this entire reality. And then he just goes, I'm sorry, Lex Luthor is going to be Superman now? That's the last straw. But I say that to me, this one's probably the weakest one, because most of the other books have really good setups. This one, it is wham bam, stuff is happening. It is, there's Lex Luthor as Superman, there's Doomsday out of nowhere, Superman is just busting in, there's some other guy calling himself Clark Kent, which, that's actually probably intriguing me the most about this book, because the second issue of this new Action Comics series just came out today, and I was reading that, and this Clark Kent thing, like, people are talking to him like, yeah, man, you were outed on TV as being Superman. We all know you're Superman. Why is there this new Superman, and why are you pretending like you're not Superman? And then, like, there's just one line that he has in which he goes, listen, I had my reasons for doing what I did, but I had to do it, and I was like, so is this the old Superman? Who is this guy? So yeah, that was like the one thing that actually really got me intrigued. The rest of it is just Superman going out there and fighting Lex and Doomsday. I gotta say, I really enjoyed actually seeing that Lex Luthor is actually kind of trying to be a hero, because you do see him actually trying to stop Doomsday as well. So I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to actually watch this Lex Luthor try to remain a Superman when this mystery Superman is now popping up. So it does have me intrigued with what's going to happen in the future, but I do feel like these first two issues were just nothing but here's stuff flying at your face. I felt like it could need a little bit more setup, but I still did really enjoy it, and as I said, the whole point of Rebirth is to remind us of old DC. This book did remind me of old Superman. Alright, next up, I said I wanted to move from the weakest to the strongest, but I'll be totally honest with you, after Action Comics, the rest of these all kind of blend together because they're all really darn strong. I'm going to go into Wonder Woman next. Now, this book has a very interesting tone because it's picking up right after that Rebirth one-shot in which he realizes, hey, reality is conflicting itself, Olympus won't let me back in, so I have to go and find someone to ask them questions about this, and so she goes out on this journey into Africa, and I will say I did not know who the villain was going to be at the end of this issue. But when I saw it and I realized who it was, it made me look back at the rest of the issue and go, oh, I really should have been able to figure that out. That was actually kind of obvious when I saw it. But I really love the setup for this villain. Like, this setup for this villain feels different than any kind of interpretation we've gotten of her before. I kind of just spoiled it a little bit by saying of her. But I really did dig what they were doing because it gave this very creepy vibe to her. And it made me look at this character like, she was a character I always liked. But it was a character who I kind of looked at like, yeah, I don't know if you really fit in with Wonder Woman's whole world. I mean, I get the connection, but I feel like the connection could be stronger. And as I was reading this, I was like, no, I totally get it now. You totally fit in with her world right now. So I really dig what they're doing with the villain. I think that Greg Rucka is capturing Wonder Woman's voice perfectly. And he's doing something very interesting on this book in which he is kind of focusing more on the military side of Wonder Woman, because, you know, you've always had Steve Trevor, and he brings back one of her old supporting characters whose name just totally escaped me right now. 1 second. Etta Candy, that's her name, Etta Candy. Etta Candy is like the one character who has always been established as Wonder Woman's friend, and it's weird what they're doing with her, because in the previous incarnations of Etta, she was always more upbeat, always more adventurous and carefree, and she was almost kind of like an entertainer of sorts, and she was there to kind of show Wonder Woman a good time. And in this incarnation, she is working for the military, and she is actually like a high-ranking official in the military, and this whole issue is basically her and Steve Trevor trying to find Wonder Woman and trying to find out what she's up to, and it really does have like this big like military drama kind of vibe to it, and that's a compliment I have to give, and not a critique, but just something I have to comment on, is that I think they capture that perfectly. Like, the way that they were looking for her, and the way they're like, oh, we just got signs that she is actually heading into this area, what could she be doing in this area, this is a very vital area for us. I think that they captured that really well, because it did make me go, oh shoot, what's going to happen from this? And as I said, they're going for like a military drama kind of vibe, and they did capture it perfectly. My only critique is, it's not really Wonder Woman to me. And to me, the whole point of DC Rebirth was kind of go, here's what these characters are, we're returning to what makes them work. And I do think that they captured Wonder Woman's voice very well. Like, I read this and I went, that is indeed Wonder Woman. But the tone throughout the rest of the issue, I was like, that doesn't really feel like Wonder Woman to me. But at the same time, it's done incredibly well. So I don't feel like I should really be critiquing it or complaining about if it is being done that well. But overall, this was an incredibly good issue. I really enjoyed it. It has been one of my favorite books I've read out of the relaunch so far. The only critique I would make is that while I think they captured Wonder Woman incredibly well, this feels more like a Steve Trevor and Etta Candy military drama that's centered around Wonder Woman rather than an actual Wonder Woman book. But I have a feeling like that was just for issue 1. I have a feeling like it is going to change after that, And if it does focus more on the mythological side of Wonder Woman and all the magic going around it, which at the end of this issue it does kind of imply that, then I am totally all on board. Next up is Superman, and I'll be honest with you, I had really high hopes for this book, and yet it somehow found a way to surpass that. This book was incredibly impressive to me. It's being written by Peter J. Tomasi, and the last thing that he wrote was the Batman and Robin series, which he said he wanted to make like a father and son series. Now, as I mentioned, this new/old Superman, that's going to get confusing, but the new Superman also has a son who is developing his own superpowers at the moment, and the moment that I started reading this book, I went, that's why they got him for this book. It's because while Action Comics is the story of Superman going out there and being Superman in Metropolis, this book is set on the farm. The farm that they're living way away from Metropolis, and it's the story of Superman's son. And that's honestly a great story because you get to see Superman from the point of view of his son. First off, I just want to say, I didn't even realize until I started reading this book, Superman really should be a dad. It's a thought that never really crossed my mind, but as I was reading this book, it really hit me. Superman always has kind of been the dad of superheroes. I mean, he's the one who wants to make sure that everybody's alright, but he's also the one who wants to make sure everything is done responsibly and correctly, and he will be tough and firm if you mess up. It's like, yeah, Superman has always been a dad. It is perfect now that he is an actual dad. But also, let's think about the idea that your dad is Superman. Think about if you are this kid who his child is like 8 years old. Think about how weird that is for him. To suddenly learn that this father of yours, who you've always looked up to, is an actual superhero. And he's not just a superhero, he's the world's greatest superhero. You're going to go through a lot of conflicting emotions with that, and I feel like this book really captures all of that. This book, first off, it starts off by showing us him like looking at his dad, saving these cows, and he's like, my dad is awesome! My dad's Superman, this is amazing! And just the expression on his face gives you everything that you need to know about him. And there are lots of other instances all throughout this book in which you can look at expressions or body language of these characters and get every single thing that you need to know about them. I mean, there was a moment that I absolutely love in which Clark is telling his son, alright, go out there and do your chores right now. And he just gives like this little salute, and I'm like, that is such a perfect touch. I'm going to praise the writer, Peter J. Tomasi, on this book a lot, but I really have to praise the artist, Patrick Gleason. This to me has the best art out of any of the books that I have read in any of the Rebirth titles. There are moments that just feel stunning because of the way that he captures them, but there's also like little emotional moments that just hit that perfect tone because of what he does with their expressions. There are so many moments in here that it relies heavily on the art to sell you on the way that Superman's son is feeling, and it does that perfectly. But as I said, if you suddenly found out that your dad was Superman and you're suddenly developing your own Superman-like powers, you'd go through a wide range of emotions. There'd be a lot of things that you would feel. And in the beginning of this book, we do get that sense of, my dad's Superman, this is awesome, I'm gonna be Superman too, that's amazing. But throughout the rest of the book, we see all the different feelings. Like, they don't make you go over this long, wide arc to watch his journey, because if you're a kid, you're going to feel all these things right after another. And yeah, they are able to capture all that in just one book. It's really impressive. Like, he starts using his own powers, but he doesn't really have control of them, and something goes bad. I'm not going to say what, but it was kind of, it was a little bit gruesome. But I was willing to accept that in this book because of the way that they handled it, because A, he wouldn't have control of his powers just yet, so things could go wrong, but B, it reminded me of when you were a kid and you screwed something up big, and you were just like, oh man, they're gonna be so mad at me, they're gonna be so mad at me if they find out that I did this, and then all of a sudden you start getting depressed, and you start getting angry about it, and you start lashing out about it, and you don't really know where to put all of your emotions. It gave me that same feeling. I think that they captured that really well, and then moving towards the end of the issue, as I said, I'm going to be semi-spoiling some of these books because I want to give you the complete pitch of each of these issues so that you guys can kind of decide for yourself whether or not you want to check it out. But at the end of this issue, Batman and Wonder Woman just arrive at their farm, and Superman goes off into this shadowy area to talk to him, and Superman's son is listening in on it and trying to like use his powers to see them. and they just turn and look at him and give him this look of, we know you're watching us, and it was drawn to be frightening, and it should be drawn to be frightening, because if you were a little kid and all of a sudden you did something wrong and you were afraid that you were going to get into trouble, and then all of a sudden you see Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman out on your front lawn just staring at you, that would be terrifying, and they captured it perfectly. And one other thing that I'm really enjoying about this book is that I love that in this issue we also get introduced to this little neighbor girl, and the moment that she gets introduced, you realize, oh, that's gonna be your Long Lane. Like, you don't know what exactly is going to happen between these two characters, but you can tell that that is going to be like his main supporting character. And I love that they are not just having Jonathan Kent's parents be the main focus of this book. I love that it is not just Jonathan Kent dealing with being the son of Superman. I love that it is the story of Jonathan Kent, and that includes all of his supporting characters around him. As I said, I had high hopes for this book when I saw the creative team on it, but the pitch of this being the Superman and Sons series, I think they're capturing it perfectly. This has easily been one of my favorite books that I've read out of this Rebirth. Okay, the last two books that I'm going to talk about in this video are the two Batman books, Detective and Batman. And I gotta be totally honest with you, I think these two might be the best books that I've read so far in Rebirth. And it really kind of pains me to say that, simply because in the New 52, people criticized almost all the books out there except for Batman. Batman was the one book that all the critics were praising, all the fans were loving, and was selling insanely well. Batman didn't need help. Batman did not need Rebirth to come in and save his book. Batman was doing just fine on his own. So it does kind of pain me to go, okay, all these other characters are getting a second chance. Batman's still winning it. But the reason why I personally am loving Detective Comics and Batman is because, as I mentioned when I was talking about the Batman Rebirth one-shot, the point of the Rebirth one-shot was to come in and basically go, hey guys, here's what we've been getting wrong with these characters, and here's how we're gonna fix it. This is the new tone of these books, this is the new direction of these books, and here's everything that you need to know. But as I said with Batman, it was like, yeah, they didn't need to fix anything. Batman has been just fine. You didn't need to change Batman, so they didn't really change much in that Rebirth one-shot. But the moment I started reading Detective Comics and Batman, it made me realize, oh, there was stuff about Batman you needed to fix. There were changes that need to be made to this character, and both these books are doing it. Because, yes, I like the Scott Snyder Batman series. I do! I'm not going to come in here and badmouth the most popular DC book out there for the last 5 years. Yes, it has been good. However, it just hasn't been my Batman. It hasn't been the Batman that I enjoy, because this Batman has been way more standoffish. He has constantly been like, I don't need any help from anyone here. I have to go out there and fight all on my own. Except for Alfred. Alfred's got my back. And Alfred the whole time was like, I don't want to have your back, sir. Please, just stop this. Just stop and come back to the manor. Stop. Get out of the cave. And don't get me wrong, that's part of Alfred's character. It absolutely is. Alfred has been like a father figure to Batman, and watching him go out there and almost die every single night is tough on him. So I understand that is part of his character. And that is indeed part of Batman's character, to be that standoffish. And Scott Snyder has delved way more into the horror side of Batman. I mean, I made the joke when I was talking about all the Rebirth books that Scott Snyder kind of treats all Batman's villains like they're the Slender Man, or like they're a creepypasta character, because yeah, he really wants to experiment with the horror side of Batman. And again, there is that side to Batman. However, that's kind of been the side that we've gotten to all of Batman over the course of the New 52, and there have been different sides to Batman. Like any great character, especially any great DC character, they're a character that has different sides to them. And the moment that I read Detective and Batman, I went, those are the two sides that I loved about these characters. This is the stuff that I love about them. Don't get me wrong, if you want to come in here and say you love the Scott Snyder stuff more, that's awesome. Because as I said, that is a legitimate side to Batman, and you're totally fine enjoying that side to him more. But to me, the two things that I love the most about Batman is that Batman is this defender of Gotham who is a detective. He is the world's greatest detective, and also the Bat family. Those were the two things that I love the most about Batman, and as I said, in Scott Snyder stuff, it was way more focused on horror stuff over detective stuff, and also the Bat family was kind of like, yeah, no. In fact, he even had a storyline called Death of the Family, in which it wasn't about anybody dying, it was just about the whole family going, yeah, I don't really like you anymore. But in Detective Comics, the whole point of that book is that someone is hunting down vigilantes in Gotham, so Batman goes, It's time we put a team together. So he gets Batwoman and goes, you have the most military experience, you're going to be leading this team. And then he gets Red Robin, he gets Spoiler, he gets Orphan, and he gets Clayface in there, which a lot of people are like, I don't know about that. I love that he got Clayface on this team, because to me, most of Batman's villains, they're not absolute criminals. They're not people who are just going out there trying to wreak havoc and madness. I mean, yes, there are many villains like that, but most of them, they're just mentally ill. They're just people who need help. They need someone to come in there and try and guide them. That's the reason why most of his villains go to an insane asylum and not jail. It's because they actually need help. And if you keep sending all of your villains to an asylum, but none of them ever get help, none of them ever get better, they always constantly remain evil, it's like, well then, that's kind of discouraging. What's the point? But in this issue, Batman goes to a movie theater where everyone's cleared out and Clayface is just sitting there watching old footage of himself. He's watching himself back when he was an actor, back before he turned into the Clay Monster. And he just goes, listen, Bats, that's me up there on stage. I just want to see this movie, alright? It's only 90 minutes long. Just let me sit here and watch it, and then I'll go with you. I won't even put up a fight. And then Batman smiles. He smiles. Batman does not always just have a face on him. There are moments in which he will smile, and he smiles and goes, listen, I believe you're still a good person. I believe there is still good to you, and the only thing that changed you was an accident. I can help you with that, but you have to earn that. You have to actually try to be better. And if you want to try to be better, then work with me and my team. And when he said that, I was like, that's the Batman that I love. That's the Batman that I want to read. Not the one who's just like, you're breaking the law? Well, I'm going to punch you in the face. Sure, if they're breaking the law just because they're like, hey, I like breaking the law, yeah, let Batman break the crap out of their face. However, if they're just somebody who's messed up, the Batman that I love is the one who goes in and goes, I want to help you. And that's the Batman that we saw in this. But also the Batman that we've been getting over the past couple of years has been so standoffish and so, no, I have to do this on my own. I can't put other people in danger. So the fact that he is actually going out there trying to form this team, but also the fact that he goes to Batwoman in this issue and just reveals his identity to her and says, listen, I'm revealing this to you because I trust you and because we're family. And the fact that he is so willing to do that because he does trust this person. Not because, oh well, I have to do it, or because we're on the same side. It's because, no, I trust you. That, again, is the Batman that I want to see. The Batman who actually does trust people. So, yeah, this is everything that I've been missing about Batman over in Detective Comics. It's that Bat family coming together. It's a Batman who actually cares. It's a Batman who actually trusts people. Although I will say, I'm kind of glad that I waited until the end of the month to say this, because issue 2 comes out today, and I read issue 2, and I really enjoyed all the stuff that had to do with the Bat family. I loved all of their interactions. However, Batman was being a little bit standoffish again, a little bit more of a dick, but there was a moment in which he was talking to Red Robin, and was like, listen, I know you always like to keep yourself distant. I know you didn't want to compare yourself to the other Robins and say that you were a Robin because you wanted to keep yourself distant, but to me, you were a Robin. To me, you were my partner. I was like, again, even if he is being a little bit more standoffish in this issue, we do see him actually caring for his Bat family. And lastly, the actual Batman series by Tom King. This book, as I said when I was talking about the announcements for all these Rebirth books, this to me was the book that I was probably most looking forward to, because to me, Tom King is hands down the best person to write this book, and I think I was right about that. Because as I was reading this issue, it starts with Commissioner Gordon telling Batman, okay, 3 people just tried to sneak into the city with rocket launchers. We caught 2 of them, but now there's someone still in my city with a rocket launcher. We need your help to find him. And as he tells him this, the guy with the rocket launcher launches one at a plane to try and get it to crash into Gotham. And what is so great about this is that, A, mystery. Who is this person? Why'd they sneak in? And then we see something else happen later in the book that makes me go, okay, that's a new mystery. So as I said, I want to see Batman being a detective, and a detective story is set up in this first issue. But we actually see Batman trying to stop a plane from crashing, and you actually see him doing it. And I've had a problem with Scott Snyder's run on Batman that he just whipped out the Batmech whenever he needed it. He just constantly brought it out. And I was looking at this and going, you know, if this was Scott Snyder's Batman, he would have whipped out the Batmech and just had it lift the plane out of the city to safety, And I hate that he brings the Batmech out so much, because like, if you can just bring out this giant Superman fighting robot, then all your villains don't seem that important. They don't seem like an actual threat to you. But in this, we actually see how Batman, with just his car and the few simple gadgets he has and Alfred on his comlink, is able to stop this plane. It is actually a way of showing a big thing that you would look at and go, there's no way Batman can stop that, but we can actually see Batman stopping it without having to bring out some kind of a Deus Ex Machina giant mech. So I absolutely love that. In fact, there was an amazing moment in which the plane was going down and there was someone on the plane going, this is it, we killed ourselves by coming to Gotham. If we came to Metropolis, Superman would be saving us. If we came to Central City, then the Flash would be saving us. We're coming to Gotham. What's Batman going to do? You get the hero that you deserve, Gotham. And then this little kid looks out the window and he sees Batman on the wing of the plane actually trying to stop it. And I was like, that's awesome, because that's the other thing that I absolutely love about Batman. It's the connection that he has to Gotham City. And they did do a lot with that in the Scott Snyder series. But to me, this one issue did something that I enjoyed more, in which they showed this is why Batman is needed in Gotham. As this guy said, you get the hero that you deserve, and when you see Batman up there trying to stop the plane right afterwards, it's like, yeah, Gotham gets the hero it deserves because no other hero works in Gotham. And I'm not going to say what happens at the end of this issue. I know that I've been spoiling a lot of things, but I think that this reveal is pretty darn good. But the end of this issue reveals that the whole point of the upcoming storyline in Batman is all going to be about, okay, well, what happens when Batman suddenly is not the only superhero in Gotham? I know there are tons of other superheroes, but I'm talking about what happens when there is a Superman level hero in Gotham and goes, yeah, you're not needed anymore. Trust me, I got this. So it is one of those things which, like, okay, it looks like this book, A, is going to be a great detective story, it's going to pay tribute to Batman, and also it's going to prove why Batman is the hero that Gotham needs. I absolutely love this issue. In fact, in the next Batman movie, this whole issue could be the opening of it. This whole scene of him trying to stop the plane, like if the credit sequence came up at the end of this issue and said, Batman, I am Gotham. It was like, yep, that's the start of a Batman movie right there. And also, I'll just say, I really liked Alfred in this issue, because as I mentioned in the Scott Snyder series, Alfred was all about, oh, don't do this, Master Wayne. You're killing me by going out there and almost killing yourself every night. And yes, that is indeed part of Alfred, because he is a father figure to Bruce. He did raise that guy. So this is like watching his own son go out there and almost die every single night. So yeah, it does weigh on him. But I always kind of like the Alfred more from the animated series, in which he was just kind of clever and witty, and he was just sitting there, the comlinks, like, yes, alright, Master Wayne, I will assist you with this. And you see him actually smiling in this issue while he is making jokes and helping Batman in this case. I mean, there's this big, almost apocalyptic level thing happening here in this issue, with his plane crashing down that would take out a large amount of Gotham City, and yet you still just see him smiling because he's like, nah, Batman's got this, yeah, and I'm going to help him do it. So it just felt good for that. In fact, speaking of the animated series, this entire issue, I could just hear the theme song from the old animated series playing, like it captured that tone perfectly. So far that Batman issue has been my favorite thing that I've read in Rebirth, but there are still many more books coming out in this Rebirth relaunch, and I've still got another video coming out later today in which I talk about Green Lanterns, Green Arrow, Flash, Titans, and Aquaman. So if you want to see that, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button right there. In fact, I'm going to put links to other videos of mine at the end of this video, and one of those links will be to that next episode coming out later today. If the link is live, then you know that the video is up. If it's not, then just come back later today. But if you guys like this episode, then make sure that you share it all around the web. It's the best way to help out this channel. You guys have been doing that a lot lately, and I really appreciate it. And if you have read any of the books that I talked about in this episode, then make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys very much for watching this episode. Come back later today. Bye.